All right.
Welcome to the Boss Hog of Liberty podcast on the Weird Libertarians Network. I'm your host, Jeremiah Morrell, and as always, I'm joined by our co-host, Dakota Davis.
Hey, how's it going, Jer?
Oh, man. Episode 3 in a row.
Yep, 3 in a week, man.
Having fun.
Oh, yeah.
It feels like summertime in here now. It's about 95 degrees. I switched to short sleeves.
It's difficult to keep a house built in 1914 cool in the upstairs.
You've got 5 men in a small bedroom.
Yeah.
Our show is about our lives in rural Indiana. It's a show about folks who are involved in politics. We promise that our episodes are going to be a fun and an easy listen. We interview people who are influencers, elected officials, political experts, and folks that we just find interesting. In the room today, we have Chase Peyton on the sports desk. How we doing, buddy?
What up, dude? I'm doing great.
Seen you 2 days in a row.
I am back.
Is this the first time you've ever done 2 episodes in a row?
I don't think so. I mean, first back-to-back days, though.
Yeah.
I don't have a life, so I'm always available.
Chase required about 7 minutes notice to do this one, so it was perfect.
Yep.
He's the ultimate
He's
super
really
sub.
good at that.
Oh, yeah.
And in the other chair, returning guest. I don't know if we call you a co-host at this
blue
point,
corner.
or if no, you're in the red corner, man. Yeah, red states. So this is you were here in like episode 22, 23?
24.
Episode 24.
Here.
On
September
September
21st.
Yeah.
Jonathan
September
Lamb,
21st.
the candidate for Congress from Yorktown, Indiana, Ball State University.
Yes, sir.
Self-made guy. You saw him at the Super Bowl on the at halftime or third quarter. You guys had
That's
the
right.
big show.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So excited to have you back.
Yeah. Love it or hate it. We had a Super Bowl ad.
That's it.
That's
Check
right.
that one off the bucket list.
So people did give you hell about it because
yeah,
of
of
your
course.
choice, but people talked about it.
Oh, yeah.
And that was
whole
the
point of a
important
Super Bowl
thing.
ad. That's the point of a Super Bowl ad.
That's what won me over. I was on the fence
That's all
until I
it
saw the
took.
Super Bowl ad, and I was like, I'm voting for this guy.
Well, good.
Yeah, I was sitting in the local Elks Lodge. I'm a member there, and that's where we were watching the Super Bowl. And your commercial came on, and I was like, hey, he was in my spare bedroom.
We've tried to invite everybody
Yeah.
so far. We've tried to have everybody on the show that's running for the seat. Doesn't matter where you're out on the ballot. We've tried to have them all on. We've had success with a lot of them.
With most of them.
Yeah, that there was. We're still waiting on return phone call
Yeah.
from the guy from Columbus. So,
Yep.
we'll see. There's still
Well,
time.
then-
We'll find a way to get him on if he decides he wants to do some media.
I believe I'm the only Republican candidate that's been on, though.
Yeah, we did have another
Yeah.
one scheduled, and
It was a no-show.
yeah, he was.
Well, it's a long drive over here because he doesn't live in our district, so he's got to drive from the 5th district to get over here, and probably doesn't know how to get here.
Yeah.
Residency is a state of mind in Indiana, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I guess that's true.
So you did make an announcement yesterday that if you're elected, you're going to stay. You're going to be frequenting the Indianapolis airport.
We created our pledge that I will absolutely be staying here, raising my family here where I was raised.
Awesome.
Poor kids got the same teachers that I had in elementary and everything else. My kid said the other day, he says, I think these are the same lunch trays that you used. I said, no, you're wrong. Those are the same lunch trays that your grandpa used
Yeah.
and then I used.
Same lunch trays and the same frozen pizza.
That pizza's good, though.
Oh,
That
yeah, the
rectangle
squares.
stuff, yeah.
We found, I think that my parents found some at like a Costco or something one time.
Oh,
And like
man.
my whole family was like, yes.
Nostalgia. See, these are the things you miss by being homeschooled.
Well, see, I
Yeah.
got best of both worlds because first through sixth grade, I went through like 4 elementary schools. I went to Cowan in Delaware County.
Oh, yeah.
I was
okay.
a Black Hawk for like
How
a half
about
a
that?
year. Yeah,
Did you go to kindergarten? My wife's aunt taught kindergarten at Cowan.
it was 5th grade. I was at Cowan for like part of 5th grade, and then I was a GM guy. Like my dad was a GM transfer.
Okay.
So he was at New Venture Gear on the
Okay.
south side of town, and then they rented there for like half of my 5th grade year, and then they bought a place in Newcastle. So I went to Blue River for a
How
couple of
about
years,
that?
and then homeschooled after that.
There you go.
So I was
Yeah.
a Black Hawk and a Viking. So, yeah. What were you, Chase? You're mini school. Did you guys have a mascot, or you just were whatever you felt like that day?
We were the Crusaders for a while, and then we moved to the Patriots.
Oh, my
jeez.
God.
Sorry about your luck.
Chase
Oh,
Chase went to
man.
Freedom Baptist Academy.
Oh, there you go.
Mm.
I
He was-
am not
he
familiar
graduated-
with Freedom Baptist.
Yeah, it
Where's
was
it at?
really tiny. It was
He graduated top in his class,
on
so don't sell yourself
38.
short.
like it was a class of 3. But I was first in my class, though. I want to point that
Class of
out.
3?
Valedictorian.
Hey.
Somewhere between Hagerstown and Newcastle,
Yeah.
out there in the eastern part of Henry County.
Okay.
So, so you're back. The last time you were here, Dakota says it was September 21st, 2017. A lot of things
Yep.
have happened since then.
It has. You were the second highest download. The second highest by 9.
It was
Well,
the
So
we need-
close.
It was the top of
we need to
mowing
break
season.
that today.
yeah.
We need to break that today because now we
Yeah.
have planting season. This
That's right.
guy's going to be out working the fields.
That's right.
It's going to be a breakneck speed.
Well,
here
and
soon.
that's so that the reason Chase is here is because it's planting season, and co-host Cade, he's out planting green beans and sweet corn
Oh, well, there
for
you
L&K
go.
Farms tonight.
All
so
right, well, very good. Well, we'll give them a shout out.
that's it.
Absolutely.
Stop up there and see him, and he said he gave us special instructions to say be patient. If you're behind
Yeah.
planters, don't
Yeah.
run them over. They'll try to get out of your way.
No,
But come on, man,
And-
be chill.
It's like a double law now to where you can't pass farm equipment in a no passing zone. You can't pass anybody in a no passing zone, but it's now especially illegal to pass farm
It's
equipment.
like hate crime legislation.
Yeah.
It's still
different
it's even
levels
more
of
illegal.
legalness.
Yeah.
Double.
So the
But
last
we
time
do need some ag representation here in the district. We haven't had that in our congressional seat for many, many, many a years.
Yeah.
So,
looking back, yeah, it's been a while. Haven't had a family
been
farm
Been
very
a
or
while.
long time.
haven't had anybody with real ties to the ag community or
Nope.
you know,
So
we
we
haven't had any bovines or
Yep. So we need that.
equines or lambs.
There you see. You
We
saw
should've
my
seen
Super
that
Bowl
one.
commercial. What
Yep.
people don't
It's
realize.
the name ID.
And we
hey,
see
we've been
the
saving money
we
in
see the
Washington.
signs down in Louisville and places. The
With the lambs on them.
Yeah, lamb.
That's right.
Those- yeah.
I saw one in Winchester the other day.
There
you
you
guys
go.
you guys visited Astral. Is it Astral up in
Yeah, we
Lynn?
did.
And I saw you guys have got some of those the new signs with the
Yep, yep,
lamb
yep.
on the is it not there at
That's lambs with 3 A's.
it's
Yep.
36 and whatever the north south road is. There's a one maybe.
Yep.
I don't know. It's
Yeah, I saw
Yeah.
one in the McCordsville area. I was like, hey, that guy was on the show.
And the Super Bowl.
and the Super Bowl. Yeah.
My dad, I was talking to him today, and he's like, who's coming on the show tonight? And I was like, Jonathan Lamb. He goes, he must be the front runner because I see his signs everywhere.
Oh, that's what it
So,
is. Yeah.
Yeah, it's that you're
If
working.
only it was that easy.
if only it took winning the sign Olympics. That's all you
Yes.
had to do.
Yep.
How many signs? Do you know? You have any idea how many signs you've gotten out yet?
We know.
Yeah. You're not telling them.
Yeah.
It's a secret. It's like the commissioners won't come on here and tell us what their wind farm number is, and I can't get him to tell me he's put out 50,000 signs.
Yep.
It's a house secret.
It's south of
Write that down.
50,000, but
Yeah.
it's not too far from
Yeah,
that.
the listeners are chiming in and say that they see signs everywhere. Brantley says that there's a sign across the street from his house in
Oh,
Delaware
good.
County.
Yeah.
So that you're everywhere, man. People know that
People are
name.
excited. We got volunteers all over the district that are eager. They'll come to the office and they'll take a bundle of 50 or 100 signs at one time and just, they'll go out and stick them. I mean, people are passionate about this race. These seats don't open up very often. When they do,
Right.
we need to make sure that we get the right guy in the seat. And so it's been great to have so much support of so many people and volunteers that want to make sure that we have a voice in our district. And, I made the pledge to live in the district, and we haven't had that either since, McIntosh was first elected here in our district back in 94.
Yep.
He's been the last person to live in the district.
He lived up on University Avenue, right
That's
down
right.
from
That's
the
right.
school between Wheeling and Ball State. That's
Yeah.
where David lived.
So
Cool
when-
old White House there.
So when Mike Pence had the seat, starting in 2000, he moved the family to D.C., and then obviously Luke has done the same thing. So it'd be good to have some representation here in the district.
Our friend Lisa Crosby sees, she sees Representative Rokita all the time. He actually does live in the district in the 4th, and he's flying back and forth all the time. And Lisa is she lives here in Newcastle, but she's one of the stewardesses, the flight
Oh,
attendants
okay,
on that
okay.
D.C. route, so she sees him all the time.
Well,
So-
hopefully I'll see her.
Yeah,
Lisa,
yeah.
looking forward to meeting you.
There you go. I saw on Facebook they left her in Montreal today. It's like a free vacation.
Hey.
You take that job, and she's up there
How about
trying to read
Canadian
everything in
States?
French.
It has to be a little rough. though.
Sorry.
Like very sorry. From the outside looking into that flight attendant job, it sounds awesome, but I couldn't imagine all the just the waiting games of sitting there.
Yeah.
Ugh.
I feel like a caged animal in there,
Yeah,
sitting
not
on the
for me.
tarmac.
And I always feel gross after I get off a plane.
Yeah.
Like I couldn't imagine doing that every day. Little side story. We're getting sidetracked.
Sorry.
Let's
yeah,
get
yeah.
back on.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, Jonathan, you referred us. It was like a congressional referral. Maybe you were trying to clear the ballot off or trying to deal with some things. Tom Firkinoff was
Yeah.
running as a Republican in the 6th out of Wayne County.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess the Republican, the party machine. There's no secret about this. The party machine very much wants Mr. Pence to be their guy. So they went through. There were a number of people that had signed their name, and for whatever reason, the ballot got thinner. People came off.
Yeah, so we
Yep.
expected when we first started talking about this, when Luke Messer was, rumored to run for Senate, and I actually got approached by a libertarian, of all people. Um, when we started talking about running, there was a lot of names thrown in the mix that were going to run, a good, healthy 12, 14 people that had serious candidates. And I think when Luke ran, there was about a dozen that time, wasn't there, the first time when that seat was open in 12? And so we expected to be a crowded field, but just got steamrolled out by the vice president's brother. And so, they tried to steamroll me out as well, but here I am.
You're here, and you're
Less-
contending. The financial reports show it, man.
Yeah.
You're up there.
Yeah.
And
So
not only
cash on hand, you're sitting on over $450,000 in the bank, at least as of the last reporting period. And Greg Pence has got about 228. So
He's had some pretty big fundraisers since then, so we'll see what magic he's got up his sleeve here at the end. I imagine he's got a big push in store for us, but that's all right. At the end of the day, it's not about money; it's about votes.
you've got to have enough money to get your message out there, which you've
Yeah.
been able to do. With the TV commercials and
Super
and
Bowl.
the Super Bowl
That's right.
and the multiple appearances on the Boss Hog Liberty podcast and
That's right.
video
That's
cast
right.
now in glorious high
Yeah, we
definition.
didn't have video last time.
No, it was very early. It was
Yeah.
we had just moved into the studio. We were doing this in the round. We didn't have the long.
We were sitting at a round table, at like a poker table almost, is what it felt like. And
That's how
it was
most.
nice because you can, see
That's
each
how
other.
a lot of the radio. When I go on radio, a lot of them are like that. So,
Yeah, sitting at a round table.
yeah.
And then we were like, you know what? Let's take this up a notch. So we got an iPhone from Jeremiah's fiance, donated an
Nice.
iPhone, and then we started live streaming, and we had to put it in the corner in order to get
It
a
looked like
shot.
we had
Yeah,
security video.
it did.
Because you had a beanbag last time, where
Yeah.
Josh, my campaign manager, he hung out in the beanbag.
Yeah, the
So you got
beanbag's over
David
here.
chair tonight, which is nice. He appreciates that.
David's looking very patriotic in the corner.
Not that
Yeah,
we
he
haven't
is.
been sitting for pretty much 12 to 14 hours a day, every day since August. So
Maybe
we
a
are
beanbag would have been okay.
yeah, we will roll over 30,000 miles in the campaign here shortly.
You guys didn't
putting
choose the
some
most
miles on the truck.
fuel efficient vehicle either for this thing, but you can carry around signs.
Yeah, I got a
and
3/4 ton 4-wheel drive HD 2500 Chevy truck.
you're getting about
Nice.
11 miles per gallon across the district, 30,000 miles at a time.
Sometimes, yeah.
No wonder you had to raise so damn much
four-door
money.
Extended cab, but 4x8 signs. These guys with these little tiny short beds. I mean, come on, they can only haul a 4x4.
They're a danger to
That's
You
right.
need a
society.
Lamb for Congress 4x8 in your yard. So if someone wants a 4x8 and they're the 6, why don't you go ahead and hit up Boss Hog for Liberty right here? Just put it on Facebook and let us know your address. We'll drop a 4x8 on you
They'll
tonight.
get one to you. There you go. You deliver
Look at
in
that.
Henry County tonight.
Henry County
Constantly
tonight.
Keep your
working.
We
keep
have
your
19 counties. I mean, Dave and I go anywhere, anytime.
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 Call upon. It's the line of duty.
That's right. Here to
So-
serve, and that's what it is. That's the whole point of what we're talking about tonight. We are in an election for a representative, and we're looking for a representative. And this is a job interview for who is going to represent our district. And we'll probably get into it later in the notes and start talking about some of these things. But we need a voice of someone that's going to represent our district, and not represent Washington, not represent special interest. And that's what I'm doing, because I think we're all kind of I'm probably the old man in the room, I guess. People always hit me. They never ask. They always want to know what the age I am, but I'm 36, and
I'm
It's-
34. Yeah, I'm
it's
still barely
our-
younger. I'm not old
it's-
enough to run for Congress yet.
But it's our generation. It's becoming the lost generation, right? It's this generation that we're going to lose if we don't get problems under control. If we don't get drug addiction under control, and that's why we need representation. We need someone in Washington that's going to understand and fight for us.
All right. So we wanted to point out that you did say, hey, Tom Firkinoff, you may want to check out the Libertarians.
So we got back to the Tom story. So after Tom kind of got pushed out, and by the letter of the law, he technically needed someone to sign off on it, and no one was willing to sign off on him running. And we had a phone conversation, and I said, Tom, you got to call the Boss Hogs. And I said, the Libertarian Party is always looking for folks, and I think that this is how representation should be. I mean, we need good people to represent us in Congress, and we need people with ideas. And my opponent in this race is unwilling to talk about ideas and solution. He just wants to talk about the Republican platform and his brother, and he doesn't actually want to talk about solving problems. So I got to know Tom. He's a real smart guy, and he's a guy I could debate. He's a guy that we can talk about solving things together. And at the end of the day, once you're elected, you don't have a D or an R behind your name, or in your case, you don't have what do you guys actually use for the abbreviation behind your name?
L or LIB,
LIB. So you don't have an LIB up behind your name because you're representing the entire people of the 6th Congressional District. And so you have to be able to bridge those gaps, and that's what we need. And so I'm glad that Tom's coming over to you guys, and hopefully you caucus him in, huh?
Yeah, he is now the Libertarian Party of Wayne County chairman.
Ah,
yeah, he's establishment already. He's the chairman over there. He took over for Reg Bell, and we'll see. He's we nominate. We don't have a primary in the Libertarian Party, so Tom
But you
will
caucus, right?
We have a convention.
A convention. Okay.
So the same way the Republicans or Democrats will
Right.
appoint their attorney general nominee at a convention, we do the same thing with all of our statewide and federal candidates.
Yep.
So on May 5th at the Marriott, downtown Indy, right at the finish line of the mini marathon, same day, the Libertarians will have their convention, and that's where we'll come out with our Senate candidates, our Secretary of State candidates, our federal candidates, and our state representative candidates.
Fantastic.
So I think Tom's got a real good shot at winning that race. So let's talk about the campaign a little bit.
Yeah, let's do it.
You've been running all over the state, or all over East Central and Southeastern Indiana.
That's right.
What are the big stories? What are the fun places you've been? Things you've seen? The oddities.
I want to hear some good stuff.
Before we get into the real policy, I want to know the goofiness.
We were talking downstairs outside of the studio. That would be the green room, right?
Yeah,
is that where we were at? In the green room
is the kitchen.
Yeah, today we were in White Rock, which is in southern Shelby, which is a beautiful campground / cliff diving facility. And so we're pretty sure that we're going to get the White Rock vote.
You're going to rock the White Rock.
We're going to rock the White Rock. That's right.
Yeah.
But, we have been everywhere and seen everywhere. We have been to every small town, tons of factories, tons of farms, and just met with people. Like I said earlier, we're pushing in on 30,000 miles we put on the old truck since this campaign has started. And it's what you have to do. You have to get out and meet people and go across the district. Dave and I were just laughing. We've been to Madison, Indiana, so I'm in Delaware County. For those people that on the radio, you got to close your eyes and visualize this. Hopefully you're not listening to this podcast in your car, so don't close your eyes. But the district, the 6th Congressional District, we're a large district, so we have 19 counties, technically 18 and a half. But where I'm at in Delaware County, we're in the extreme northwest corner. And so for me to get to the bottom of the district, it's a good 3.5, almost 4 hours, depending where you go. And, we've made that trip weekly. We've been to Madison, Indiana, which is on the river 7 times in the last 30 days. So,
wow.
I mean, we hit it. We go down there. We got some good supporters go down there. Nothing like I dropped off, I guess, about 100 signs down there. And then someone else called and was out of signs and wanted more signs. So we hopped into the truck and drove down there. And, luckily we had some appointments along the way meeting with folks. And so it's good. We had a busy day. Today we did about 360 on the mileage count today.
Well, and you've been meeting with local officials. I know you came to the Henry County Economic Development Corporation. You've toured a bunch of factories and met with small business owners. And then you picked up some endorsements along the way. I saw city councilman down in Rushville, Craig Smith.
Yeah, we got lots of endorsements. We've met with
Cecil
almost
Bohannon.
every mayor. Yeah, Cecil Bohannon. We have a list of economists, PhD economists that have endorsed us, and that list is very, very long.
Yeah, it's pretty impressive.
Because I'm an economist, and I saw on my agenda that we're talking about my book about economics at some point.
Oh,
in time.
yeah.
But I'm a national bestseller now, best-selling author.
I'm hoping we get a copy dropped on us. I heard they've been. I don't think it was in print yet. It was so long ago you were here. I don't think they were in print last time.
No,
so I haven't seen a copy yet.
Truck.
Yeah.
I can't believe they bring those in.
There we go. It has to be signed too.
Yeah.
Oh, I autographed one today. I was in this morning. I was in Pleasant View, which is a little small. I wouldn't call it a town.
A hamlet.
It's right off I-74 in Shelby County, and I met with some guys. There's a group of guys that hang out at a little Country Mart gas station there, and met with them this morning. And randomly, one of the guys was there, said, "I got your book in the mail," and he went home, got it, and had me autograph it.
Oh, that's
awesome.
Cool.
So
That's really cool.
Did you guys just blindly mail books to people in Shelby County?
So we mailed out an entire semi-truckload of books. We mailed out 10,000 copies of my book. along with, a letter just telling people, hey, I'm an economist. If we're ever going to get Washington under control, we need to send a different kind of person to Washington. And I think we need to send a person that understands finance. Wouldn't that be a novel idea that someone in Congress understands finance? And so you guys know my story. I was in my 20s. I ran a multi-billion-dollar portfolio in commodities, worked on trading floor for 8 years, and I'm an economist. And we got to get this budget under control. And we can all agree with that. No matter what part we're at, $21 trillion is too much.
Way too much. So you've been campaigning against, we keep calling him the man in Columbus, but
the brother. We can just say the brother.
I'm just going to go out and say it. His name is Greg Pence.
The Marine.
The
Former
Marine.
I think
we do know that about him.
He bought Todd Young's campaign plan and said, hey, let's do that.
I'm a Marine.
I'd like to know what he's done for the last 30 years. We found out in the New York Times article what he did for the last 30 years. I'm not going to negatively campaign on your show because your listeners don't want to hear me sling mud, but they can go to the New York Times and learn why he hasn't talked about the last 30 years.
I wouldn't mind hearing it.
Well, you guys can tell him.
So the article, I read it. It said he had the family business, an oil company, and they operated some convenience stores under the name of Tobacco Road, which seems horrifying in this day and age, I'll say.
Yeah, it really does.
Aaron Dickin would have you thrown out of town. They wanted to ban smoking in public in Henry County, and I told Dakota Davis, I said, we are going to, if Aaron actually does this, we are going to chain smoke outside of the city hall on the sidewalk for 2 hours. I'm not even a smoker. I'm going to take it up in a freedom protest.
Big old stogies out there, full on Arnold Schwarzenegger, and go out there and smoke in front of the
smoking
city
for freedom.
Hall. Yeah.
So the Pence family, they operated some gas stations in Columbus and southeastern Indiana.
About 200.
And they for whatever reason, Greg was a businessman as well, so he was appointed to a bank board, and that bank had financed him. I think he signed some personal notes when they were having a downturn. The family business struggled, defaulted on debts. It went to the bank, and then he was bankrupt and said sorry. So he used bankruptcy to move forward.
That was $102 million.
That was a good way to put it, Jerry. He said sorry.
It happens. It
really does.
The president. It does happen.
I'm an entrepreneur. I've started 7 companies, and that's not the issue. I think, you read the article. The issue is some of the finer points in that, how it was dealt with, and some of the environmental concerns there.
Yeah, so that's the business record. So you really haven't seen him run as a businessman. He's been saying, "Hey, I was an officer in the military. I've had a career, and I've got tremendous name ID."
Yep, and you keep challenging him to debates, calling him out. You
guys have tried to get him on the show. What did he say?
Tried to get him on.
Right now, they're the official. I've talked to Nicole. I think it's his daughter and his communications person. And as of right now, they are meeting with business owners, and they're not doing any media. So you haven't seen him do media. I
talked to a reporter today that was trying to get a hold of him. I was like, I don't know how to get a hold of him. I mean, it's your job. You're a reporter, but it's radio silence. Has been radio silence since day one. Not only has he not debated, but he's not made any statements to the media live or in writing. I mean, if you look at some of the stories, they've been actually done by his campaign manager and not himself. Any quotes or comments. So, and look, and here's the problem that we face. Here's the simple problem when it boils down to for our district. We talked about it earlier. We need a representative for our district, and how can we have someone that represents our district if they can't talk?
Yeah, you don't actually know what they stand for because they haven't said anything.
Well, and that's the problem. So how are they going to go to fight for us in Washington? How are they going to go to bat for, hey, say what you want about the administration. The president has recognized, and it is about time that I think that as a nation that we finally recognize we got a real problem with drugs. We have an epidemic on our hands. We have declared a state of emergency. There's funds waiting for our communities. We need funds for drug education, for drug rehab. And we need a congressman that's going to go fight for us for those. And that's what I'm saying is, hey, I'm going to be a voice for our district. I'm going to go fight for us. And you know what? I think the problem that we'd have with a vice president's brother in that seat is he's going to have a lot of enemies that are going to be fighting against him for those very things we need for our district. And one of those things, the other things that we need for our district is infrastructure. And it's not just roads and bridges, but it's internet. We talked about that earlier. Broadband. As we travel across this district, I mean, we are in every burg and town and village in this district. And, I meet with business owners and, they're trying to recruit people. They got two problems recruiting people is they got to find people that are sober, can pass a drug test and are willing to come to work every day and work.
Yep.
And then they got to have people that want to live and raise their families in those areas. And hey, when you're trying to recruit, a top-notch recruit from, even pull them away from a donut county or Indianapolis and they go to a rural city and they can't even stream Netflix.
Yeah, I was going to say, if they can't stream Netflix or watch a Facebook Live host a podcast from a spare bedroom, damn it, we're not coming.
Yeah, that's right. Yep. These are the real problems that we face, and these are the real problems why we need someone that's going to live in our district, understand the problems, why sitting and talking about them and debating them.
So let's talk about infrastructure. We'll talk about that topic. The federal, state, and local government, Dakota says in our show notes, spent $400 billion in infrastructure in 2014.
Yeah.
In 2014.
Okay.
But there's still major issues. Obviously, Flint, Michigan has been something that's been in the news because they haven't had safe lead-free drinking water in 2 or 3 years. We've talked about rural broadband. Wastewater treatment plants. Almost every community's got. The EPA said you have to separate your sewage from your stormwater. My own neighborhood
is pretty good about getting around EPA fines.
That's right.
So that should be good, right?
So, but you've got some tremendous some real infrastructure costs that are coming.
Absolutely.
Not to even begin to discuss the roads and bridges that we have. Half of your road budget can be spent on bridges alone, and you don't realize that that doesn't buy any pavement or
Yep.
But we've got bridges that are absolutely there's rebar showing in bridge columns as you drive across I-70 or up and down State Road 3 all over the state. What long term is the solution for infrastructure?
You have to invest in it. So, that's why we need to send a businessman to Congress. You keep sending the same type of people to Congress, get the same type of results. And so there are things that are dollar and cents. We have to balance our budget. There is no question about that. We have to live within our means. There's no question about that. But you also, as a business person, you make those decisions that what is going to be our ROI, our return on our investment. And so when you start talking about infrastructure, there is a return on that investment. So you may be making an upfront expense, but we're having a return on that down the road. And so there's no question that these are things that we need to be investing in and looking at as our long-term assets. And so when you start talking about the budget, unfortunately, we're financing our current accounts. And so that means, we're paying for our military with debt. And that's wrong, that we're paying payroll with debt. You're supposed to be using debt, what you and I use debt for, mortgages and these long-term expenses. We invest in an asset.
You're buying everything on a credit card.
Right.
Well,
So infrastructure is an
government.
asset.
Yeah, but
you
we've
invest
been in the
because you get a
Middle East
return.
for 17 years. That's pretty long-term investment.
Where's your return on that investment?
Yeah. I hear you. But about we said it was $416 billion that state, federal, and local governments have invested in local or in infrastructure. But about a quarter of that actually comes from the federal government. So 3/4 of it is your state and local. So I guess one of my questions to you is that enough? Is it too much? What do you think about the kind of how much they put into it?
I don't have the numbers at my fingertips. Again, this is why you need a good representative for you in Congress that's fighting for your district because there's an allocation on what comes back. Every dollar we send from our state and from our district, what comes back to us. And ours is fairly low here in our district. I think that it's, I want to say 74 or so cents on the dollar we get returned back from what we send to Washington. We need to see that higher because there's things that as we get beat around and drive 30,000 miles across the district, Dave and I have the sore backs to prove that our roads are not silky smooth.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, that's absolutely
And
true.
I'm not just talking about, it's not the federal government's job to take care of 500 North. I'm talking about, when we go down I-69, the stretch between, my home county and Delaware County to when I drive down to Hancock County, I mean, it's like downtown Baghdad. And then the same thing you get on 74 and 65. They're all terrible.
I-69, by the way, is getting redone. The state just awarded about an $80 million contract on that. So from your
There's a stretch that's going to become 3 lanes, which is awesome.
and it's going to be, I think, from Daleville all the way down to where the last one stopped. Yeah, that's going to be redone.
I think so, yeah.
Yes, sir. So that's
But
coming finally.
Enough.
But yeah,
There's no date on that. If you notice that in the article, there was no date on that.
End of next year. As an industry insider, end of next year it'll be done.
Oh,
there you go.
You heard it here,
Industry
folks.
That's
You
it.
heard it here first on
Jeremiah is establishment.
I am. Oh, I'm a total establishment libertarian. I'm the one.
That's an oxymoron in and of itself. Establishment libertarian. We don't have an establishment. What are you talking about?
So you touched on, or Dakota did, I guess, a little bit on our foreign wars, and I posted an open letter last week when the president went to bombing.
That's right.
He didn't have congressional approval, so I took exception to it. The approval or the authority he used is what we had for 9/11, which was somewhat narrow, saying that we could go after the people that bombed us on 9/11. Syria wasn't included in that, in my view. So I had an open letter, and I said, I want every person that's running for Congress to tell me, 1, do you support this bombing and what we're doing now? 2, what is the role of Congress, and what do you think the role should be? Because my challenge, my view was that we have had the Congress has been asleep at the wheel. They haven't been involved in negotiating and authorizing and declaring wars. We get in these conflicts, and I graduated high school in 2001, so my entire adult life we've been in this game.
Yep.
Chase's adult life, Dakota's adult life, and damn near yours.
Yep.
We've been doing this. What do you see if you have our seat in Congress? Sure. When you're I don't know what committees you're hoping to be on, but if you're on an intelligence committee, or even if you're just asked to vote on this, are you a hawk? Are you a dove? What's your direction, and help us understand you?
So how many did you have respond back to your open letter?
About 8. We did very well. Yeah.
I saw that you had some of the Democrat folks even responded back. That's great.
Lamb, obviously.
Myself,
that'd be you. Lake from Muncie.
What about that guy from Columbus?
I did not hear.
Okay.
Never heard back from him.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
And he wants to represent the people?
Well, he doesn't want to do media.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right. No, it's an important topic. We haven't declared war since World War II. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Yep. So,
not since the Germans bombed Pearl Harbor.
He's on a roll here, folks.
1941, I believe, was the actual year.
No, but it's serious. We have to play within our roles. I think the president was well within what he was granted under his executive power to do what he did. We should never allow a foreign atrocity to do what they did. I would support him, but at the end of the day, I'm not a military expert, and I would hope that the president he's not either, and we have generals and our leaders within the military that are given the advice, and our job in Congress is to listen to all the feedbacks for him, and so I'd hope the executive branch would notify Congress, and we would get Congress involved in the votes, and we would be fully educated on those what is going on.
So going down that path, and what I view as the hypocrisy of people when your president is in power versus when your president isn't in power.
Mm-hmm.
There were very similar letters saying, hey, written as congressmen saying, we're ready to help you debate and discuss and authorize action in Syria. In 2018, 88 members of Congress from both Republican and Democrat sides signed that letter to President Trump. 140 roughly signed the same letter when it was President Obama in 2015, but I think only 14 of those were the same people.
Right. Yeah.
1,
people.
Would you have signed that letter? And 2, would you have signed that letter under either president?
It depends on the circumstance. I think it depends on, what I'm completely behind what we did in Syria. I think that the force was well justified, and I think they were well within their means to do what they did.
Okay.
So I know that you didn't have a lot of time to check out the show notes, but on there is a Senate bill. Been talking about this, and this was introduced by Senators Bob Corker, who is representative from Tennessee, and Tim Kaine, former vice presidential candidate. He's from Democrat.
I wonder if he had
Virginia.
a brother that would have run for Congress.
But basically, this
Some low blows tonight.
Yeah.
Well.
And we already talked about we didn't want to sling too much mud.
I'm
We're
not slinging
we're
mud.
not, are we? We talk about facts.
I just
No.
want to know
I
if he's got a
enjoy it.
family.
I enjoy it. I'm the sports guy.
Oh, well, listen,
So,
we haven't talked
yeah,
any
yeah.
sports.
I'm just waiting for. Okay.
What's going on in the draft?
All right. The draft
10
starts
minutes.
at 8.
At
10
Um,
minutes.
10 minutes. Okay.
The Browns are projected to pick a quarterback with the first draft pick.
Are they going to draft Tim Tebow? Is that
yes.
what I heard?
Yes. Tim Tebow, a gift from God, best quarterback of all time.
I really think the Colts should have picked him up
Interesting.
the other year. That would have been a good pickup.
It would have.
He's busy playing baseball, man.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I haven't heard how
What
he's
are you
doing this
thinking?
season.
He hit a home run. His first
Really?
first at bat. He hit a home run.
That's fantastic.
In the AAA whatever it is.
I think it's like AA.
In other news, we just got rated 5 stars on the Facebook by Ed Tarantino. So we got that going
All
for us.
Hey,
right,
look at
hey,
that. Yeah.
Nice.
All right.
Old Ed
so-
Tarantino.
Okay, let's get back to this bill because
Okay.
I need to keep this fresh in my brain. But it was also sponsored by our senator, Mr. Todd Young.
Okay.
But basically, what this would do, it would take place of the authorization of military force that we have now, that we have currently, for the president's war powers. What this does is it creates a much broader stroke of the brush
Okay.
for the president. There is no time limit. The authorization of military force currently gives 60 days for troops on the ground. This has zero time limit like that. And this also names a bunch of different terrorist organizations and countries that the president can drop it down in, but it very sneakily, at the very
Sneakily?
end of it, sneakily, yes, it says. And,
Well, they wrote it down. It
and-
can't be that
yeah.
sneaky, Dakota.
Well,
Sneakily, not sneaky.
It's
Can you
sneakily,
spell
dude.
that?
Yeah, sneak illy. Yeah. But, and anyway, it's
to
in
Dakota,
there.
speak it or spell it means sound it out slower.
Yes, speak, and then illy. I want to put that on a shirt
Sneak,
now.
not speak.
Great. I'm glad you pointed that out. It's going to be a great shirt for us.
Did I give you guys shirts last time I was here?
No, but my parents got one for me at the. I got one in my closet
Oh, okay.
from the St. Patrick's Day parade.
Oh, yeah.
You threw one to my dad.
Well,
It's Dakota doesn't have one.
the guy that looks like John Gregg. That's who it was.
Oh, there you go. I think I got some. I think I'm down to larges and triple XLs. What is all I got?
Yeah,
I
buddy.
got one at home that works.
Hey, buddy,
I'm
I'll take a
covered.
large.
All right, I'll hook you a book and a shirt.
All right.
There you go.
Sure.
I'm down.
Look at all the
Large.
swag we get.
All
This is
right,
what it's like
so-
to be a media member.
So they
Dude,
put
we're
it
so
in there.
famous.
Yeah, they put it in there that the president can also use the force against any other defined terrorist group. So basically, this gives
So you have to be defined.
yeah. So I mean, anybody that the president, the current person in power, defines as a terrorist group, he can be authorized to use military force against them in this current Senate bill. Is that something that you would?
I have not seen the bill, so I can't even begin to comment on it without knowing it. But ultimately, at the end of the day, we do need to protect our citizens. That's the most important thing. So I'll have to look at that bill. When you have me back next time, can we talk about it?
Yeah. We
After
can do
the
that.
election,
After the election.
after this primary victory that we have coming up on May 8th.
Yep. We'll have
So
to. We'll
is
host
it-
a
has
debate
it-
between you and Tom too.
There you go. Is it has it seen the floor, or is it going to get?
It hasn't
Killed
seen the
in
floor yet.
committee.
No.
Okay.
It's going through committee.
Okay.
At least it's bipartisan. Honestly, I don't mind if I'm not sure that I support this bill either, but at least have a debate. We haven't voted. We haven't. Congress has been derelict in their duty to even put something on the floor, and so many times that's what happens.
About a host of topics, and that's the issue, is that we need to be able to get stuff done, and we continue to see it. We send people farther and farther right to the Congress, and then people farther and farther to the left, and it's just nothing is getting done. We have to be able to get some stuff done in Congress, and that's my frustration. That's why me at age 36, I'm willing to put almost $1 million of my own money in this race, is because it's so important to us, and it's so important that we have debates, have a voice in Congress, and here we are. We get right back to that topic of debate, and my opponent refuses to debate.
So
Funny how that works.
when you were here last time, we said, "Hey, who do you look up to in Congress?" Have you've had 6 months since that time looking and studying and watching Congress? Do you at this point do you have anybody that you say, "Yeah, that's my guy"?
People ask me all the time, who are you like? Who do you want to? I want to be Jonathan Lamb. I want to be Jonathan Lamb, congressman from the Indiana 6th Congressional District. There's certainly people that I like. I like that Rand Paul style. There's things that I like about everyone, but at the end of the day, I don't want to mirror myself after any one person's policies or what their achievements are. I'm my own guy. I mean, that's what I am.
Good answer.
Is there a caucus you think you'd fit in?
Yeah, I get
The
that question.
Tuesday group,
Yeah, I get that question all the time. I'm not even on that path of thinking about the caucuses.
The tattooed caucus.
You
have any
know, they
tattoos?
probably wouldn't let me into that.
Do you-
no,
Do you have
I'm
like a
tattoo free?
full body that you hide?
No. I'm ink free.
You know, you're the first congressional candidate he's asked that to. He did not ask that question to Lane Siegman.
I didn't.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
Actually.
that is profiling.
When you win,
I'm a tattooed
will
man.
you get a victory tattoo?
You know what?
Your
I've
vote
never
totals.
thought about that. The 6th
Lamb?
district.
The
Heads,
lamb.
and you just write down the number was.
Maybe I can get Dave to get one.
You are on the payroll, Dave. It's you have to do what he says. That includes body modifications.
Is your boss?
I was
Gun
on
tattoo?
I was on a 3-on-3 basketball league when I was in Florida, and we had a pact. The team had a pact that if we won the championship, we'd all get a trophy tattoo on us somewhere.
Oh.
But we didn't win.
You threw it on purpose.
yeah, that's what it was.
I was excited. No, one of them wasn't, so he probably threw it on purpose.
Yeah.
But
I bet that was it.
Yeah.
So the other
this
big thing you've
idea.
talked about has been the economy, and your
It's all
background in
about the
economics.
economy. It's the economy, stupid.
That's right.
It's the economy, stupid.
That Dakota, before you were born, this guy named Bill Clinton was elected president, and then when he was reelected the year you were born, that was their thing. It's the economy.
Hey, he's got a wife that ran for president.
Huh. I didn't
Yeah.
know that.
Is that
So
her?
apparently it's a
I thought it
thing.
was a man.
It's apparently it's a thing to keep these
Legacy.
legacies in the family. I mean, what
almost
is
like-
up with this?
Now be careful. Your kids might want to run for Congress someday. Let's not
Lord,
say
I
anything that's
wouldn't
going to
hope
come
that
back
on
against
them.
them.
Yeah, that's right.
Oh man.
So you have a book out. Actually,
Yeah.
a local business owner. He owns a business up in Delaware County, up in Muncie.
Okay.
His name's Paul Earlrick. I think I
Okay.
can never pronounce his name right. Anyway, he's a friend of my parents.
Paul. Okay.
And
hey, Paul.
he's like, "Hey, I'm glad you're having Jonathan on because I read his book and he is spot on."
Nice.
So, yeah,
Nice.
there you
So
go.
yeah, we sent out 10,000 of those. So if the people that get easily offended in this audience, we
no.
can say the title.
Is it a children's book? Because Todd Rokita sent out a
You
children's
know,
book.
I saw that.
I don't
saw that
know.
yesterday.
Apparently, that's the thing to do when you're running for Congress. Is you send
Yeah.
books out now.
Yeah.
But yours is more adult.
It is adult. It's called Economics is Like Sex. It's the taboo topics of money and budgets. So,
Yeah.
Are there
Yeah,
any
it's been-
pictures?
you know what?
They're charts and
There are a
graphs.
few
Chase.
charts and graphs. but
Okay, all right.
You'll have to leave it to your imagination.
I'll give it a read then.
But we've had several angry customers, I should say, people that got a copy of the book that weren't amused by the title or the cover.
The
And, you know,
cover is brilliant. I
and
think.
as I
You had a
tried to
baby
say-
boomer on the cover.
Yeah, so
I
we
mean,
had
not Marilyn Manson, Marilyn Monroe.
Marilyn Monroe. Yeah, sporting a Ben Franklin head.
Yeah, that was
the
awesome.
iconic picture of the dress.
Yeah, I loved that.
But it is taboo. We don't ever talk about this. It's not sexy to talk about $20 trillion, $21 trillion of debt, and we've crossed over already. This is what's killing the next generation, and if we don't get people in Congress that truly understands how big of a number that is,
So
we're not going to get anything done.
the Tea Party had mild success
Mhm.
with getting sequestration,
Mhm.
which led to a small reduction in spending both on the domestic side and in the military side. In the latest omnibus, that was all reversed.
It's a disaster.
So you're not
I'm going to
supportive.
steal that word, the
You-
disaster.
You're not supportive of
I
the
would not have
president's
voted for it.
president's budget or what Congress came through
Absolutely
with.
not. No.
Yep. I just pulled up the national debt clock, the real time.
I like watching that. I keep it in my office.
USDebtClock.org, and right now we're at debt per citizen is $64,581.
Debt for taxpayers now over
100.
160.
Yeah, that's
174.
It's 174. So when I
Yeah.
started this campaign back in August, I remember giving a speech, and it was at 160.
Mike Broyle
Wow.
says he received a copy of the book and he said he expected more sex in it. He's very disappointed.
sorry
viewer.
about your luck.
That's great. That was really good.
So you're a big no on the president's budget plan.
Yeah. So know this, that when you go in that ballot box to elect me, that I will be a fiscal conservative.
You actually mean it, though.
I mean it.
Because a lot of Republicans say they're fiscal conservatives, and then they come out for tax increases, or they say, I'm a fiscal conservative, but we have to spend on this. Or we have to, this budget, this clock doesn't change.
There's things that we need to spend on. We talked about infrastructure, but you have to stay within your means when you do that. I mean, you can't just continue to spend. And I say this all the time. Once a genie's out of a bottle, it's really hard to put it back in. And I get it now, as I'm out here running, politicians, it's they get elected by, constantly giving out and giving handouts, and it's not easy to a platform to run on taking stuff away from people.
Right. Yeah.
People don't like that.
You're one voice of hundreds.
Right. And so there's some things that are non-negotiables. We can't be taking away Social Security. We can't be taking away Medicare. When you pay into those systems, that's a non-negotiable. Now, are we going to have to look at reforms?
I wish you would cut me a deal today and
Absolutely.
say, I want to write. I've said this for ages, and I wish we could do it both for individual pensions for public employees, and I wish we could do it with Social Security. I would, if somebody said, hey, we will give you a lump sum today, you can get out of Social Security, and it's your money and you can have it, I would take that deal today. I would take that deal at 45 or probably close to 55.
And these are the things that we have to have open bipartisan debates on, because the systems as they are broken and we cannot fund them. And so there has to be
a fix.
There has to be a fix. And as an economist, someone that can debate these things, read my book. We talk about this. How do we fix this? What are the solutions? And all things have to be on the table, but there's some non-negotiables that we also have. We can't be, there could be grandfathered clauses, et cetera, but we have to look to the future. We have to look to the next generation. And, I frankly think that, putting someone in our seat that's 61 years old that was a Marine 30 years ago, that's not
the skill set we need in this district right now.
And that's not the skill set we need in Congress. And let's face it, let's look at our Congress and the folks that are in there right now.
Yeah.
And, we need to wake up, and we need to send a different kind of person to Washington.
So,
I like that. But
do you want to? We had a tax cut.
Mm-hmm.
Do you want to grow our way out of this and hold the line on spending?
So,
do you want to make cuts? What specifically? Help me out.
So I always talk to this. People don't truly understand it. So at $21 trillion, here's the reality. Okay. How do you solve that? How do you get out of it? Well, the status quo is you continue to talk about making a few cuts, and you just borrow more money. That's never going to get you, never going to solve the problem.
Well, it seems like what keeps happening is that you talk about cuts, but as soon as they talk about cuts, they spend more than what the cuts were in other areas.
Right. So your next thing that you do, and obviously what we favor and I favor as a Republican, is you grow your way out of it. That's that's the fantastic and that's the ideal world. The tax cuts, I think, will help us grow. So when you look at those numbers on how they contributed to increase the deficit, I don't think that we did the study we completely showed what we would have in additional revenue. I think the numbers that I've run and I've talked with other economists are that we should be close to net neutral on that. And that's always the hope that you want. You want a stimulus that ends up being net neutral, and that ends up being better for the economy in the long run. So you hope to ultimately grow your way out of it, because it only leaves a few other solutions. So the only other solution that you really have that people don't think about is, obviously you can raise taxes and help pay it off. It's a non-negotiable that we shouldn't do. But one that people don't think about is you inflate your way out of it. And that's what we're facing with.
Yeah, that's what.
So people don't understand the power of inflation. And, I talk about it again in my book, and it's something that is real that we have to be cognizant of is, $21 trillion isn't a big deal if you have hyperinflation, and then $21 trillion, you just start going to the grocery and paying with $1 trillion bill, then $21 trillion is no big deal.
It doesn't mean anything, but the purchasing power of your dollars is gone,
and
your wages are dead.
People have to understand inflation. And so that's, that's one way that people don't understand is, you can borrow, which never gets your way out of it. You can inflate your way out of it. Or, that A-bomb is you default your way out of it.
Mm-hmm.
That's it. Those are your options. And so, it has to be a combination of, a moderate level of inflation, some serious tax cuts, or not serious tax cuts, some serious spending cuts,
Yeah.
And then you have to have some serious growth.
Right, because what we saw this last time was the tax cuts. So
Mhm.
we're like, oh, good, tax cuts, an increase in spending.
Yeah. Yeah.
That doesn't work.
No.
You don't
That's pretty
take a
simple
pay
math.
cut on your salary and then go, I can spend more money now. That's not how things work.
The previous time the Republicans had control of the House and the
Mhm.
Senate and the presidency, we got the expansion of prescription drugs from
Right.
President Bush.
Mhm.
And then we had 2 wars that nothing ever changed. We just kind of
Right.
funded those. Those didn't stop during Obama. And now, once again, what the Tea Party had slightly reduced, it was just a fraction that's just thrown. That's gone. And now
We have
we're
to
back
cut
to
spending. I
we're
mean,
going
there's no
even faster.
question that it has to come from cuts. We have to cut spending, and we have to get real that there's going to be, and it's not going to be easy. And again, these people, they live and die by getting reelected, and that's the beautiful thing that people are appreciating about my campaign. Self-funding my campaign. I'm not driving around the district begging for money. I'm driving around the district asking for votes and meeting
Right.
with people. I'm not owned by special interests. And representative, why they set up this in the Constitution with senators being 6-year terms and representatives being 2-year terms. We're supposed to be the closest to the people. If you didn't like what they're doing, you voted them out. And hey, I'm not beholden to special interest. If you don't like what I'm going to do, vote me out in 2 years. But the reality is, if we don't have anyone that has the courage to do that, we ain't never going to change anything. And so that's why I think people are, when I talk to Republicans, I get a very mixed signal even from fellow Republicans about where they sit with Donald Trump. But everyone can agree on they love the fact, and I love the fact, and it inspires me. He's shaking up the status quo. He's not beholden to anybody. My opponent has raised hundreds of thousands of dollars from special interest groups, lobbyists, PACs. I've taken zero from them. I can vote for what's best for our district. And that's what we need. We need people that are going to vote and represent their district.
So you're elected to Congress.
I like that. Okay.
You're elected to Congress. You're
Mhm.
sitting there, and it's time to pass a budget. What and you've been talking about cuts. What areas do you see that need those cuts the most?
Oh, you have to start with across the board cuts. I mean, you just have to start
Everywhere.
With it. I think
So
Rand
you're going
Paul's laid
to
out.
be told that you're regressive and you're killing grandma immediately.
Yeah.
Day one.
That's what. Yeah.
They're going to
I mean, that's
recycle. They're
what
going to recycle
happens.
the Paul Ryan grandma's going off the cliff
Yeah.
commercials.
But you have
Yeah.
to. I mean, we have to get real that, we all do this. I've done this in budgets. I owned a construction company during the recession. Great, beautiful timing. I bought my first company in November of 2007. I think we talked about this last time I was on the air. But, I mean, you have to realize that there's places and times that you just have to cut. And one of them now is, this is now. It's now you have to cut. And so we have to look at, nothing can be off the table. We have to have, new ideas, fresh ideas that, hey, here's where we can save, here's where we can cut. But there's things that are great programs we need that invest in the future.
Yeah, and
that
with
we
your
certainly need.
monetary background, you believe that you're the best candidate
Yeah.
to do that.
Yeah. And I do not promise to have all the answers, but what I promise is to have a common sense voice for, hey, this is the economics behind why we need to do what we need to do.
So another area where you've differed in recent weeks from the White House and the
Mhm.
administration has been steel and aluminum tariffs that were
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
I saw you getting some hate on your social
Oh,
media
yeah.
page.
And
for
we
that
leave it
one.
up there. We leave it up there when it comes in. We take the good with the bad, and it's a topic that's not understood. It's that we don't talk about it. It's that taboo topic like sex that we talked about. You're not taught this in school, and people don't frankly understand it. But blanket tariff, it kills more jobs than it helps, and especially our district. When you talk about a representative from our district that needs to fight for our district, devastating to our district, devastating to manufacturing, devastating to the agriculture community. I've heard that, this is great. It's short-term pain, and then we're going to have, get the negotiating that we need out of it. Well, that's great, but short-term pain can hurt a lot of businesses in our district and put them out. And,
Yeah, so we are an old automobile town. We had a Chrysler plant here in
That's right.
Newcastle. We still have a steel founder here.
Yep.
We have Crown Forklift now.
Mhm.
I did see today about 50% of the material costs that goes into an automobile comes from steel.
That's right.
So if
We got the draft going on.
The Cleveland Browns are on the clock.
they're on the clock.
They have 8 minutes left for the first pick of the 2018 NFL draft.
I don't know how any of these things work.
They're growing quarterbacks.
So I just wanted to warn you guys. I might interrupt.
All right, let us know.
Okay.
That's okay.
We got to know when Chubb goes off the board.
All right.
All right.
Is that who you want the Colts to pick?
I'm hoping. Fingers
Number
crossed.
6?
Yeah.
But-
I hope it's not Quentin Nelson.
A guard.
Yeah.
All right, back to Congress.
All right.
So
It's getting interesting.
50% of the material costs for producing an automobile, closer to 100% of the material costs whenever you're talking about producing the pipelines and things that carry our oil and our fuel from places to places. And along with that, the people who consume steel as a product accounts for 5.8% of our nation's GDP.
Yep.
So we're talking pretty big numbers here. And then we have aluminum that gets thrown in with that. And aluminum, in my job, I use it daily. I use it all the time. I weld it, do all kinds of stuff with it. So it's not like it's a small issue.
Yeah. And so let's get back to that budget discussion. How can we get $21 trillion under wraps? What was one of those things that we said? Inflation. What are we looking at here, guys?
Yeah.
What is this going to do? Costs are going up. So it's here. We don't want to go through, huge periods of inflation again. It's just economically it didn't work, and it's not going to work, and it won't. These are real people in our district that are affected by this. Ball State put out a study from the Department of Economics, and I believe that for every one job in the steel, we're going to lose 60. Here
60 downstream manufacturing jobs.
So, I was meeting with, you said earlier that when I was in Lynn, Indiana, at Astral Caskets. Well, they make steel, they stamp steel for caskets. They were looking at, their cost per unit going up and what it was going to do to their bottom line. And here's the reality. They can compete well at the lower end of the casket change, I guess you should say, which is interesting because Chinese caskets have come in and competed with them. And so it's heavy, and there are big units to ship from China. And so shipping is one of the largest costs of a casket. So Astral doesn't compete well at the high end. What they compete well at the low end. Well, the cost of their inputs just went up at the low end. And so now they're insanely uncompetitive with the Chinese market. And now the Chinese can use cheap Chinese steel and just import it at a higher price than our folks in Lynn, Indiana, can buy the steel and manufacture it. And so essentially what we thought was going to protect us from Chinese business has just created huge Chinese business.
Yeah.
Or guess what? Now you can have someone in Mexico that can go buy Chinese steel in Mexico, make that casket in Mexico, and ship it across the border. And all of our jobs in Lynn, Indiana are gone. So these are the real problems that we face. Another great example in the ag community is, we have row crop farmers, and then, we have livestock farmers here in our 6th congressional district. And livestock, we see it instantly, reflected in the price, especially pork. Pork has just gotten hammered. I met with a really large commercial operation, and, they were just talking about how much they're going to lose per head. And it's unbelievable. As soon as we started talking about that, these are real things, and, people just can't shoulder these losses. And so this is why we need, again, I could keep harping on it. This is why we need a representative that's going to go represent our district. And, we're seeing it in the Senate race here, and for the U.S. Senate seat, it's everyone seeing who can be the biggest Trump supporter. Look, I support my president, and I support any policy that makes sense for our district. And blanket tariffs does not make sense for our district.
Well, and it has led to a big counterpunch directly at agriculture, particularly in soybeans.
That's absolutely right.
And it's affecting China. And then instead of buying their beans from the United States, they're probably going to buy from Brazil.
That's right.
And that's going to not only cause problems for the soybean industry, but then that's going to also directly affect your pork people, because
absolutely
those proteins go right back into agriculture production, once again downstream. Just like with steel, the guy that consumes those soybeans is the person that makes animal feed, which feeds it to a hog.
That's right.
The steel goes into a casket.
So these are the topics when you talk about in debate, and they're not sexy topics to talk about in debate, because people just glaze their eyes over and say, all right, someone else will worry about that.
Yeah, you start talking about numbers and people blank out.
People want to talk about guns and God and, babies.
Guns, God, and glory.
And, all these things. And, those are important issues. But, within the Republican Party, these are non-negotiables for being a Republican. We should all be pro-life. We're all second amendment supporters. We get it. These are topics that give you a seat at the table being Republican.
Yeah, you don't.
These are the issues that we need to debate
right.
amongst
You don't
want
to be sitting
out
up.
in the primary.
If you did debate, you don't want to be sitting up there with a person and just agreeing on everything.
That's
because
right.
that doesn't set you apart. And that's what I found interesting about your answer to this, because there's a poll that was published on March 8th that said 67% of Republicans or Americans who identify as Republicans were pro-Trump tariffs. By contrast, only 7% of people who identify as Democrats were pro-Trump tariffs. That's a huge divide there, man. And I think that on the last show, the episode 24, I asked you if you thought that the Trump and Pence administration would help or hurt your chances. You thought that it would help your chances, and I think that answer is going to stay the same.
Yeah, we haven't seen it. It's interesting to watch this Senate race play out here in the state of Indiana.
Oh yeah.
We haven't seen that wedge of divide between the tariffs right now. People are still.
If you ran for Senate, you may be the most likable guy in the Senate race right now.
For real.
But they kind of put a wedge between themselves on the spending bill. With Luke DeMesser voting for it and Rakita voting against it, and Mike Braun has come out and I think he sounds like he's going to be a fiscal conservative. But the tariffs, we haven't seen them really take a position on it right now. And, it is early in the stage. And, I do hope that the administration is using this as a negotiation tool. I know that no one wants a trade war. But, just like we talked about, an act of war, this is war for us. I mean, this is real. This is people's lives right here in the 6th District that, feed their families.
You're playing with live ammunition. Even whenever the president does something like this, I can tell you as a guy that we don't need to talk real specifics, but I'm in the steel industry. I'm in the construction industry. And in the last 4 months, we've seen raw input costs go up over 20%.
Mm-hmm.
And that's been real in the
Who's
market.
going to pay for that?
Well, ultimately, the taxpayers in my industry.
Ultimately, the taxpayer is.
Because that's who's consuming.
What we just did was we talked about the taxpayers, and so now, we talked about that project on I-69. So now we're going to get X number of miles for the same dollar that we were going to get Y number of miles, and so at the end of the day, it's taxpayers.
That's exactly right. And then whenever we from a government, we try to make an adjustment in one place. You have the invisible hand jumps in.
That's right.
And we try to say, okay, we're going to fix steel, and that affects gaskets. We try to mess with oil, and then all of a sudden, asphalt costs different.
Right.
No matter what you're chasing, the market always reacts.
Right. So this is what people don't understand is, we live in an ever shrinking world, not an ever growing world. We have a new world economy, and we are all intertwined, and we're all in it together.
The vice president was here today and on the west side of Indianapolis announcing 3,000 jobs on the west side of Indy. From India.
With the first pick of the 2018 NFL Draft, the Cleveland Browns select Baker Mayfield, quarterback from Oklahoma.
Poor guy's going to be Brady Quinn when he grows up.
This is bad. And he was my favorite quarterback out of the draft, but I didn't want him to go to the Browns. So.
Who's on the clock now?
The New York Giants.
Okay.
Didn't the Colts trade up?
They traded back. They had the 3rd pick, and they traded back to 6th.
Yes, 6.
Yeah.
So.
Look, I'm impressed that Jonathan can sit here and talk about all these serious issues, then go right into the NFL draft.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I'm sorry about this.
No. Look,
You're just doing your job, son.
Yeah, I was told to do this. Don't hate on me.
Oh, so you're just blindly following orders? Is what you're saying?
Oh yeah. They pay me, so
yeah.
You're getting
a yes man. He's a yes man to the administration.
Yep. Hey, if you want to debate me, we can debate. Who is better, the Yankees or the Red Sox?
This year?
Yes.
Who do I hate more?
Oh.
I am not a Yankees fan.
Okay.
I'm a Cubby fan.
I was gonna vote for you, but
oh, you're a Yankees fan? Oh man, right here on the air and living person. Please don't tell me that. Please don't tell me that you have a Tom Brady tattoo somewhere.
Oh no! I'm a Chicago Bears fan. Now I think Tom Brady's the GOAT, but I would never get a Tom Brady tattoo.
I'm gonna give you a bloody sock for your birthday.
That's mean.
Oh man! If you don't know what that means, you can look that one up.
No. We all know it well.
Yeah.
Oh,
Except
at
for
least I
Dakota.
do
Dakota has
know.
no clue.
I have no idea.
Not a clue.
A bloody sock.
Yeah,
I don't know what
Kurt
year
Schilling's
that,
bloody
what year was
sock.
that in the series.
It's my
90
04?
Yeah, it was
I'm going to say,
04.
is that 04?
My favorite year
Yeah.
was 03.
Yeah, whatever.
Walk-off home run. ALCS. Boone. Aaron Boone.
Yeah. You could say it. Yeah, Chase gets paid. That's Cade in the chat going, what?
yeah.
Ridiculous. All right. So we were asking about inputs and the government playing around and messing around with, regulating industries. Ford's getting out of automotive completely, or out of cars. They're going to be down to Mustangs and some other weird
small SUVs
crossover
and trucks, yeah.
And I'm convinced that that's because we have set policies. There was an interesting article that came out today that says, in the 1960s, we set a 25% tariff on trucks, imported trucks.
Yep.
So it's still in place 40 years later, 50 years later. So that's what makes American trucks more profitable, is we have this huge barrier to entry over here. And now Ford says, the hell with it, we're going to abandon cars completely.
Well, it's supply and demand. The industry doesn't want cars anymore. People they like their small SUVs. Hey, we live in Indiana. It's not easy to hit a pothole in a little car. My 3/4 ton truck shakes when I hit a pothole.
As a previous owner of a Chevy Sonic, I can
you get swallowed in some of those,
that.
some of those roads that we have. So it's simple. The market should be bringing to the market what people want. And right now, people don't want cars. It could change tomorrow. We're already seeing oil at a 3-year high. And, I'm sick of paying almost $3 a gallon in my thirsty hog. And people are going to get there soon. And cars could come right back tomorrow. And, that's the job of the folks in the industry to bring to the market what needs to be brought to the market. That's the difference between the free market industry versus the government telling you what to do.
But I say you guys. It's not really you guys, but Congress. Congress plays with CAFE standards, where they tell Ford Motor Company that your fleet has to meet X.
Mm-hmm.
Is that a policy that you?
I thought you guys
agree
were
with?
libertarians here.
We
the
are.
government telling you what to do.
I'm saying, do you
That's
like
not
that?
Good.
I'm giving you this is a softball.
No, it's a
man.
free market.
Yeah.
The government should be telling
So you're
going
to kill CAFE standards.
Yeah, I don't see why it's any of the government's business.
All right. There we go.
I like
you
that.
make whatever vehicle you want and you
sell it. If I want a big thirsty
it.
truck, or what, I told Dave, I'm excited to get a Tesla and make a 2-door Tesla. We're campaigning in that in 2 years because
gosh, I love
we need it.
Teslas. They look awesome.
Here they take off so fast.
Yeah.
Oh, if you've ever driven one, it's incredible.
Is it?
Yeah,
You've driven a Tesla?
I have. Yeah, I had a buddy that had one. It was awesome. Yeah.
That's so cool. There's people in Hagerstown that own Teslas. Surprising.
I was amazed
So
at how many
my-
saw out
so
in
my
Mustangs.
current
The Amish?
So one of my current companies I have, so I said, we talked earlier, I'm a serial entrepreneur. I've started 7 companies. My newest company that I'm waiting on a patent to get issued on is I'm actually working on electric agriculture equipment. And so, we're doing a lot of battery research on that. So, yeah.
Oh, that's
It's the
cool.
future.
That would be-
future.
yeah. It definitely is. All electric is totally the future.
Mm-hmm.
So you touched on the drug epidemic.
Yep.
And
Let's solve this problem tonight.
You're gonna
Let's
work it
solve
out?
it tonight here on Boss
It's
Hog of
pretty
Liberty.
easy.
Well,
Pretty
we've-
cut and dry.
We've talked about
Drugs are bad.
Yeah, I did.
Okay.
You asked what's the funny thing about the campaign is, these newspapers want to print a little synopsis and they give you, a topic. And they gave me 50 words to solve the drug epidemic. And I don't think that I can solve that in 50 words or
I
less.
love that. That's
or
great.
less. I mean, you can have up to
I would
50
start
words.
with end the drug war.
There you
End
go.
all wars.
In the war on drugs.
So
We put that in there.
it is the most serious topic, I would argue, in America today. It's affecting the most things. And, if you don't get to the root of the problem, you're never going to solve it. And that's the problem, is we have to look on both fronts. I think like an economist, you have to think about the supply and the demand, and we have to hit both of those fronts. So, yeah, we have to enforce, but we can't enforce our way out of it. We have to really go to the root of the problem, and that's the demand. And we have to have programs, and that's what I talked about earlier. We need education programs to make sure no one ever wants to stick a needle in their arm to begin with. And, it affects every group. I have personally lost friends that have from this. I've seen families devastated and torn apart. And as we travel around the district, I mean, it doesn't matter your socioeconomic standard, your race, your religion, your creed, it affects everybody, and we have to solve this together.
Yeah. So we talked a little bit about this on episode 24 as well, but we're going to bring up medical marijuana again because I
Okay.
think it's a big deal, especially from the federal side, everything that's been going on with President Trump possibly coming out pro-medical
And
cannabis.
Boehner,
Yeah.
John
John
Boehner's
Boehner
a
came out.
lobbyist for pro,
Yeah.
and then Senator McConnell has said he's trying to shepherd through
Mhm.
hemp legalization and
Yeah.
decriminalizing your descheduling
So,
marijuana.
At this point, Jonathan, it just seems like it's a
The
matter of
bandwagon.
time. Yeah, I mean, it just seems
Yeah.
like it's going to happen.
Become a
When are we
Yankees
going to
fan
be-
and,
Here's the
and-
reality
and get
of what
on
we
the
need.
pro marijuana bandwagon. Let's go.
No, the reality is there needs to be studies done on it because right now, I know enough about the topic to be dangerous. I haven't, it's not my forte. I have never smoked marijuana, never inhaled, never smoked it. So it's not my thing. But
The
I
devil's
can,
lettuce.
Listen, I'll study
but
it.
I can tell you, it needs to be studied.
I'll put myself out there. As
And the
long
only
as I don't go to prison for it or lose
the
my job.
only studies that have been done on it are by your anti groups and by your pro groups. There needs to be true
Very
research done on
biased.
it, and then we need to debate and talk about it, and then it needs to go to the states. From there.
Chase, don't volunteer to study it. Did you watch the beginning of Pineapple Express and what happened to Bill Hader in the beginning?
I did see
Yeah, executed. Be careful. Be careful what you're asking for, buddy.
That's right.
No, but it should be something that we have to study and have to look at, and it shouldn't be, we shouldn't just be on the bandwagon, off the bandwagon without anything that we need to be doing in Congress. We should have a true reasoning behind it, and you should. For example, if you want to pass a $1.3 trillion spending bill, maybe you should read that and do a little bit of studying on that. It's the same thing with anything. We have to look into it and dig into the true numbers and the true stories and debate it and talk about it and look at it.
So there are on medical marijuana, recreational marijuana, and industrial hemp. Those are three kind of in the same, three different flavors.
For some reason,
yeah,
industrial hemp is in there.
Yeah,
But
so,
we have it in Indiana now that we have it as part of, we can grow industrial hemp in Indiana now.
barely.
Yeah.
Only at Purdue University. Through the Indiana Seed Commissioner. There's still an issue
Okay.
where it's not fully legalized in Indiana. The average guy, Cade Colger, our co-host, can't grow hemp on his farm.
Yeah, we just learned about the Indiana Seed Commissioner.
Okay.
Preparing for one of these shows.
Yeah,
We were like,
so
what the heck is that?
Yeah, and that's an officer from Indiana's agriculture group at Purdue University.
Okay.
So if the federal government decriminalizes or deschedules hemp and says, hey, we don't need to be in this anymore, which is what McConnell is asking for,
Go to the States.
then Indiana can decide to do that, and it's not an issue. It's the
Everything
Purdue's
should go to the
completely ready to
States.
go.
I mean, there's a lot of things that our federal government just doesn't have their hand in, and I think that the states can do it better and local folks can do it better. And that's specifically, to get back to, how we work on this opioid crisis is it's not going to be solved by the federal government and it's not going to be solved by the state. It's going to be solved at a local level because every community is different. And so we have to get things out of Washington's authority and to the people.
So that applies for medical marijuana, industrial hemp, and recreational marijuana, just 10th Amendment and decriminalize at the federal level and let Indiana decide for themselves?
I think all states need to ultimately do this, yeah.
Okay.
So what about Trump's plan to execute drug dealers?
I haven't heard that yet.
Yeah, that was a big deal going around in libertarian circles. Trump proposing capital punishment to street drug dealers, but that was a big thing.
We should just throw them all on an island.
Well, I know-
Drug Island.
One night.
I think they did that. It's called Australia.
Yeah, I know. There's one of the counties here that we represent in the district. They had their first case where they're trying someone for, basically an overdose, overdose death. Yeah. So.
Yeah.
So it's come to our attention as we've been super serving this local issue. Henry County has a jail that is an absolute mess. Every candidate that's come
You're
through.
not alone.
And as we've looked at it, Delaware County, your home county, is turning a middle school into a prison, into a jail.
That's the plan.
Hancock County has it on their ballot.
Mm-hmm.
They can vote for you, and they're looking at a $60 million bond to build a jail. 55, yeah, 50. I'll round it up. 55, 60 million. They'll borrow 55, but they'll need 60. Okay.
Yeah.
Rush County's building one now.
Mm-hmm.
Fountain County is building had one that bid last week for $10 million. Every one of these counties in our state are filling their jails.
Mm-hmm.
Is there anything that you think with the jail populations that should be done from the congressional level, or is that once again a state issue? Because a lot of the county people say that state folks have sent them to county jails.
That's the problem. The state and the legislation number, I don't remember what it was, a few years back, that put that problem basically took the problem from, the state locking folks up to putting it on the local counties. And, it's a real problem across. And again, the state save monies and just push that expense off on the counties. And, again, as an economist, these are unintended consequences that you have to realize that someone's got to still pay for this stuff. Just who's going to pay for it? And right now, they're passing the bucks to the county folks, and that's something at the state level that they really need to look at in session. And it is affecting our district. Almost every county has something on the radar. Everyone's overcrowded, and this is a real issue. And
that's why as I'm running for county council here, I'm looking at this issue going, it needs to be solved. But I really feel like a lot of times, and the federal government does it to the state, and the state does it to the county, they load the bullet in the gun and then make the local official pull the trigger in a lot of these. But at the same time, there are very legitimate roles where 10th Amendment says it's not the federal government's issue. Right. The state really is the authority on these.
And it should be. I love, that's what I keep getting back to. We've had several things here. We talked about the 10th Amendment and what it should be back to the states. And it absolutely should. But what we need to do, again, get to the root of the problem. Why are we filling up our jails? It's all drug related. And so maybe instead of putting a Band-Aid on it, we get to the point where we actually fix it. We get to people, the easiest way to keep someone out of jail is to get them off drugs to ever begin with.
Prohibition, man. It's to me, this seems so similar. We have the PACE team, the proactive, whatever it is. Hancock County's part of it. Henry County's part of it. Wayne County's part of it. They patrol I-70. And we had an arrest of a dude that had an SUV full of marijuana. Okay, yeah, marijuana is illegal. It's in Indiana, it's illegal, and federally, it's illegal. I grant that, technically. But
you
so
wonder
is
why
speeding.
people want SUVs. This is why no one wants small cars.
Yeah, because you can bulk haul your weed. But then we take a picture of it as the state police and the PACE teams will, and it looks like the drug bust of the century, sure, whatever. But it's like you're arresting a tourist. They could be going from Oregon to Massachusetts with a perfectly legal product.
Yep.
And we make a big deal out of it here, and then we put them in our jail.
That is overcrowded already.
I understand. The libertarian view is, to make everything, just legal and it will fix it. Does it fix everything? Well, again, we need to talk about these things.
Right. I'm trying to have the conversation because we did it. Prohibition of alcohol was the same thing in the 30s. The federal government or the U.S. government was poisoning alcohol and killing its citizens at that time. And we have pictures of people destroying kegs as government agents.
So maybe that's what we do.
You seen the Animal House when they take the bar? Does it remind you of that? They took the bar.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
I just feel like so much of this is it's the same issue over and over again. I don't know. Just want you to think about it. I want to have the conversation.
That's the same thing. It's the same thing that we talk about. There's a huge topic on guns right now, and we're finally seeing young people raise up and have this voice. And it's the same thing. Does banning guns make you safer? Does banning liquor make people drink less?
It's the same argument though, and we hear it from ultra far right people all the time about keeping marijuana illegal and things. It's it's still a prohibition, but whenever it comes to guns, well, people will still get guns. I mean, it's kind of the same philosophy that we use for both things. And if you look at it from a middle of the road perspective, and you have a really level head on your shoulders, a lot of common sense.
I don't know. Did you shoot your Yeti cooler this week?
I didn't shoot a cooler, no.
But
are you mad at your cooler or your cooler company?
No.
Yeah, why would you shoot a Yeti cooler? It's a $200 cooler. I don't understand that.
I don't have a Yeti. I got a styrofoam.
Are you familiar with the controversy?
Is there something going viral here on the Yeti?
The NRA and Yeti are fighting each other because the NRA had a discount on Yetis, and then they've had a big falling out. You got to get back on the Facebook, man. You got to have your people. Your staff's got to tell you about these things.
Yeah, we're gonna have to talk to.
Come on, Dave.
Mr. Talby
or Josh
Mr. Talby.
Yeah.
Yep.
Got to know
Josh.
what the virals are.
Do either one of you have a cooler?
My dad does.
I have an
what we
Arctic.
should do for the show.
We should shoot his cooler.
We should shoot his cooler and get it on video.
He'll disown me. I will never get anything for Christmas again.
Well,
I have an
just
Arctic
replace
cooler,
it with
and it's really
an
nice.
Arctic, or what is it, Ozark?
Ozark
the
Trail.
Ozark Trail ones.
There you go.
Yeah. Could be done.
We'll talk to him.
Have the Giants drafted yet, Chase?
Yeah, the Giants picked Saquon Barkley, running back out of Penn State,
Yep.
and then the Jets picked
Old
Sam
Saquon. Huh?
Darnold,
Interesting.
quarterback out of USC.
So 2 quarterbacks gone. The Colts are drafting 6. If
Yeah.
2 more go, they can get the player they've been
Well,
coveting.
Cleveland's up right now, and they picked Baker Mayfield
Right.
first. So I don't know who they're going to go with.
Do we have any baseball score updates?
Yankees won earlier, 5th straight. Red Sox lost at least 3 in a row last time I saw. That was yesterday. I don't know if they lost today.
My Cubs won last night, I believe.
Cubs
I
are
know.
doing okay.
Yeah.
I don't hate the Cubs. I mean, they were losers for like 100 years, so it's hard to hate them. But
So we're talking guns a little bit.
Okay. All right. Back to the show.
Bump stops.
Yeah.
Where are you at on those? Are you is that, do you consider banning bump stops a form of gun control?
I don't know. I've so far I think actually Donald Trump has come out with some pretty level positions that I think are pretty good. That he's saying that we needed a discussion on this. And again, I don't have all the answers, but I know that taking away our guns is not going to make us safer. We need to get back to the root cause of these mass shootings. We need to keep guns out of the hands of violent criminals.
Just like the drug epidemic. It's the root cause of everything.
It's
Find
the root cause.
find what
Find
is
the root.
causing the issue, and
Find the
then you
pain,
chop
heal
it
the
there.
pain.
Yep.
And that's
You
what
don't-
you have to get to.
Treat the disease.
I think we've worked our way through the show notes, Dakota.
Have
Oh,
we
man,
solved the
we
world's
have.
Are we
problems?
there? Is that it?
We're
We got it all?
already there. Yep.
Finished them all?
No
Now,
way.
if Jonathan gets into Congress, then we can be like, hey, man, we solved all the problems in an hour and a half on the Boss Hog of Liberty. I mean, you got 2 years.
There you go.
Have you figured out which one of the congressional buildings you want to work out of yet? You a Rayburn guy or a Longworth guy? You know
No.
what building you want to be in? Measuring the
I'll probably
drapes?
be sleeping in my office, so whatever has the best pull-out couches.
Did you watch Alpha House on Amazon?
Yeah,
Did
yeah. I
show
can't believe they
watch that show?
canceled
I had
that.
2 episodes or two seasons, and that was it.
I know. It was a great show.
John Goodman sleeping in a guest, with the
Well, they all shared a house.
yeah, he was in there, and it was Kelly Ripa's husband, and then some other dude that got shot in Iraq or blown up or whatever.
That's right. That's
The,
right. It's been a while since I've seen
I
that.
think he was like a closeted gay Republican senator from Nevada.
Yeah.
It was a good show.
Utah, wasn't he?
Maybe Utah. Yeah, maybe he was a Mormon. Maybe he was a Mormon from. It was.
I
think it was
remember.
Nevada. I don't know. One of those
But,
southwestern states.
I'm hoping that we get someone elected to the Senate seat that maybe will let me share a room with them. That'd be awesome.
It'd be all right. You need a roommate over there.
Yeah.
So you have been.
What do you guys
making,
think about the Senate race? Are you following that? What's going
Yeah,
on?
I'm following it pretty hard. There is not a single person running for Senate that in the primary or at all that I can look at and go,
Are you guys going to put up a
Okay.
libertarian for Senate? do you have to do to be
we'll
on the
find out
ballot?
May 5th. We have automatic ballot access. Lucy
you do?
Britton ran
Okay.
2 years ago, and I don't know if she's running for sure yet or not. But we'll see. We'll
and
see.
then we have a guy from Hamilton County that's trying to get on the ballot.
He's going to need. I'm going to say
27,000 signatures or 24,000.
it's like 27,000
Yeah, I think
signatures.
it's
He's going to
27.
need in about a month, and I'm going to guess that's going to cost him
yeah,
$300,000.
he might be
to
the
get on
best.
ballot.
I mean, he did work at Burning Man.
Yeah.
That's his past experience.
It's
I think it's just going to be it's a monumental task to get signatures.
it was a task
I-
to get 500 for Senator Young in the first congressional district. He got to 497.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
That was it. I mean,
Wow.
there were 2 other pretty serious Republicans that failed to make the ballot. Andrew
Takami?
Andy
Andrew
Horning.
from southeastern Indiana. It's in your district. And then
no,
Andy
he's
Horning.
actually not. He's
Oh,
over
is
in
he
the
in?
ninth, I
He's in.
believe.
Yeah, okay. Very close though. I
Mhm.
guess he was in Jeffersonville, maybe.
Jeffersonville. Not,
Yeah.
We have Jefferson County, but not Jeffersonville.
Yeah, it's close. I
Yeah.
guess Madison is as close
That's
as
right.
we get.
Then we had Andy Horning on the show, and he
Andy appeared.
unfortunately didn't reach his signature.
But he's a libertarian by party definition, isn't he?
He's run as a Republican, and he ran in the 7th district as a Republican years ago, and he ran in the 8th district as a Libertarian,
Okay.
and he's run for U.S. Senate as a Libertarian. So he's played both sides.
Now, is he going to be one of your choices for Senate? As a
I
libertarian?
think he's sworn off politics again for a
Okay.
while. Andy, I think he's done for a little while.
Okay.
It takes a toll on you, man.
Oh, I know.
It's a beating.
It is. I'm 8 months in, and my family is. Luckily we're having fun doing this. At least on the weekends, my wife and boys get to go with me out on the road, and it's a lot of fun. The fall was a lot of fun with all the parades and football games and all those things that we got to do. But it certainly is. I'm gone a lot from dinners with the family. I was able to go to my son's baseball game last night. It was cold.
You can go. That's in the district. It's not like you're
I
cheating.
know.
Going to a baseball game is totally fine.
Yeah.
There's
some campaign in there. Take some of your signs.
Well, I did. I handed out a couple of business cards. Saw some people I hadn't seen in a while. People I went to high school with, I'd actually hadn't seen in a while. So yeah.
There you go.
There was a guy that used to work with me. His kids went to high school with you.
Oh yeah.
The Swanders.
Yeah. Okay.
In Yorktown.
How about that?
Yeah. So and he highly recommended you.
It's a small.
It is. Well, Delaware County guy.
Oh, now it's gonna be stuck in my head.
I know. That's one of those songs, man. Once it's in there, it doesn't come out.
Oh, jeez.
So we've occupied your time for quite a while tonight, and you got to go put up yard signs here in Henry County tonight. Is there anything else?
Does anyone give us a 4x8 tonight? Do we have a 4x8 in Henry County?
If people want them, hit us up now, and we'll get them. Or heading
you
north.
guys have
Kate Coger,
4x8s everywhere
we're
out
asking
here.
you. Kate Coger has some prime real estate.
We've got a lot of people in this district that have been hand painting signs.
I know.
And the Wind Group, they've had sign
And
painting
they look
parties.
nice too.
They look.
They
Yeah,
look
They do
good.
real good.
well, Ed Tarantino, we found out
He
he
owned a
was
painting
a
company.
painter. Yeah,
That's right.
So he's pretty good at it.
Yeah, absolutely.
So people follow you. They want to get in touch. They want to get their sign. How do they follow the Lamb campaign?
That would be at electlamb.com.
Any more commercials coming out?
We have some things in the pipeline.
We're working on some stuff.
Yeah.
There you go.
All right. You did WIBC. You did an Abdul appearance the other day.
Yeah.
And
Done a couple of those now.
And my boy Rob Kendall, you were on there. He beat you up a little bit. He was picking on you, and I took your side because you spent all this money on the Super Bowl commercial. You said, "Why the hell did you run that?" He thought it was the stupidest thing he'd ever heard. But
I ran it because we're talking about it.
People know.
That's
Yeah.
right.
The number one thing is name ID, right?
My God, it did its
over.
job.
That's what won you over.
It's been 2 months ago, and we're still talking about it.
I
It
know.
obviously did a great job.
That's right. Legendary.
I don't know why you don't have an NFL draft commercial.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah,
Ah,
for the reelect.
dang it.
For the reelect.
For the
Come on,
reelect.
Dave. You should have been on that, man.
I mean, if you get to the fall, the World Series will be on.
Yeah.
Right. You're gonna need to buy some TV time down there, maybe in Dayton and Indianapolis.
I don't know. Maybe it'll be the Cubs and the Yankees.
No, I hope so.
Mm.
We'll win the 28th World Series.
So have you been watching the other primaries? The Democrat side. You've been crossing paths. You've been meeting with
We
those
actually
guys.
we saw some at lunch today. We were down in Shelbyville and we bumped into.
You were at the Chicken Inn.
We were there at the Chicken Inn.
I love
MSNBC
that
was down
place.
there with
Yeah.
some fake news.
Some fake news. No, I didn't hear anything fake today.
No, Jim Pruitt was down there, right?
Yep. Yeah, we bumped into Jim and his wife.
Mimi.
Yep.
The Team Pruitt. They're from Decatur County, I think, right?
That's correct.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's right. We try
So-
to keep tabs.
Yeah, you
Yep.
guys are doing a good job.
We try. We try our
Doing better
hardest.
than the national media, local media. They're
Yeah.
not following it.
They're all fake news, man.
This is a big deal.
It's
I
the
mean,
real deal.
we need to get people engaged and to understand what's going on, and that's been my number one surprise. People ask me what my number one surprise in this campaign is. It's the complacency. So the people that don't vote are the people that walk in and vote and they're uneducated.
Yeah.
And my plea with everyone is get yourself educated and learn the true issues, and don't vote on someone based on their last name alone. And you look at my opponent, without that last name, he's just a guy. He's just a guy.
Well, very good. Chase, you got final thoughts for us tonight, man?
I really don't have much for you.
You're not
tonight,
going to ask him
guys.
the questions you asked me last night.
I'm not. And listen, you're lucky. I do have a couple things. Who was the team that was on the clock last time I spoke to you?
You said the
It was
Giants.
the Browns.
The Browns were on the clock for
The
the fourth
Browns
pick.
picked cornerback Denzel Ward.
Okay.
The Broncos.
A corner. So Chubb's on the board. The
Yes,
Broncos.
Chubb is on the board. The Broncos selection is happening right now as I speak.
They're going to take a quarterback.
Oh, who is it? Hold on. It's coming.
Peyton Manning.
The pick
It
is in.
is Eli Manning.
No, it's not.
No, it's not.
Did they trade for Eli?
What's his face is up?
What's his
Tim
face?
Tebow.
Tim Tebow. No, I don't know. It hasn't said. It says Broncos selection, and the president is up there speaking.
And it's pending.
Should have happened.
The president
hold
is
on.
speaking.
There's a kid in the wheelchair on stage, so it could be a while. So I'm just gonna go ahead on. I'm gonna go on with this. I do have one request.
What's your request?
Can you say Lamb for me?
Lamb.
Thanks, man. That's the only reason I came here.
It's like getting him to play Freebird.
Oh,
And he go off the board?
Bradley Chubb.
He went to
Broncos
the
selected
Brown.
Bradley Chubb.
Man,
Sucks for me too because you'll probably pick Quentin Nelson.
you really want Quentin Nelson for the Bears.
Did you guys have
I
money
do.
right on this or something? It seems to be a little.
Now there's quarterbacks left. The Colts are going to trade. I think the Colts are going to trade to Buffalo, and they're going to get the 12th and the 22nd.
I was hoping they would do that.
My prediction. Of course, it's a podcast, and people already know, so that they're listening, going, Jeremiah, you're an idiot. Why in the world did you talk about that on the show?
Very dated.
All right,
It's like LeBron hitting that shot last night.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
I was
okay,
talking to you on the
listen.
phone when that was happening.
I just want to say I was covering the game last night. I didn't get the last part of it because the show was over by that point. But the NBA's rigged. Okay, goaltending, they didn't call it rigged. If they would have called goaltending, you can say, well, he hit the 3-pointer.
Yeah, they called
But-
goaltending. They lose by 1 anyway.
Well,
Whatever.
Who knows? He might have not went for the 3-pointer if he was down by 2. He would have probably went in and tried to get a layup or something and cause a foul.
We'll see.
But,
This reminds me. That you're not old enough to remember the Pacers having to get by the Knicks and it was just
Reggie.
took
I do.
forever.
I remember Reggie
Yeah.
a little bit.
You remember
later in his
with Ron
in
and,
his
Yeah,
career.
and-
I've seen
and
the
Brawl
30 for
guys.
30.
Yeah.
So
There you go.
All right.
That's
So you
all
got
I have.
broadband to stream Netflix.
That's right.
Yeah.
We got MetroNet here, man. If you've got the access here, we have a gigabit internet service to this house, to this studio. We have fiber optic to the premises. Some
You're not
places
messing around.
it's pretty solid.
Henry County's the place to be and be seen.
That's it. What you got for us, Dakota?
I'm going to plug Cade really quick again about the farmers thing, but hopefully it's that time of the year again. My yard looks horrible because I haven't had a chance to mow it this week.
Man,
because
I
we've
tell
done
you
3
what,
podcasts.
I was praying that the weather would stay cold and I wouldn't have to mow until May 9th, but I had to break down and mow last Sunday, so.
Do you
yeah.
think you're the only guy in your race that mows his own lawn?
I would venture to say, well, I know the one that lives outside of the district in the 5th, I think he's got a townhouse. I don't think he's got any grass. And then I assume I don't know what my opponent in Columbus does, but I would highly doubt that.
Interesting. I
Joe-
mow my own yard. I push mowed the whole thing.
Joe
I got a
Hogsett.
0 turn, and my boy likes to ride with me. My boys actually fight on who gets to ride.
Joe Hogsett, the guy from Rushville, that's the mayor of Indianapolis. When he was running for mayor, he
Yep.
had his lawn mowing shoes in the commercial.
Oh,
Yeah, he's like Mr. Rogers putting his lawn mowing shoes on.
That's awesome.
So think about that for the fall.
no, I just wear my boots. I had
Your regular guy clothes.
Yeah, my regular guy clothes.
Regular guy clothes. Let's see. I don't think I have anything else prepared for final thoughts except support us on Patreon as always.
Vote for Lamb on May 8th.
You need to get on patreon.com/BossHogLiberty. You need to pitch in. We've things have been developing behind the scenes here, and we're getting closer and closer to moving to our own studio space in the beautiful downtown Newcastle, Indiana. But we're still like a couple $100 away per month from reaching that goal and actually getting there and getting moved in. So if you can jump on there, give us some money. I've sent out all of the posters. And the lady at the post office said that everybody's going to get their posters by Saturday.
There you go.
So-
Nice.
They'll have time
Yeah.
to
Why don't
frame
you
them
guys
over
get a
the weekend.
van, a mobile studio, and the studio comes to you?
Man,
I like that. That'd be
You
awesome.
could
We could just
travel,
do it
be
out,
on
yeah.
location.
Well, we could just have the guests show up at the van parked on the street here.
I know. I'm liking it. I think you should do the mobile studio.
The AC would probably be better.
we
in
could
there.
park it on 14th Street where there's never any traffic.
Yeah.
It would be downtown Newcastle. All right, yeah. Well, awesome. The Patreon thing is growing. There's definitely plenty of content over there. There are some things in the works. We're looking at some space over the weekend to see.
The Indianapolis Colts pick is in.
Uh-oh.
He's getting ready to announce it.
It's not a trade? We're waiting
It's not
patiently.
a trade. Oh,
Did they take Nelson?
they picked Nelson.
They took a guard.
Oh.
That's like the Jets taking a
I
tight
hope
end.
Andrew Luck breaks his neck.
Oh, come on now. Don't you do that.
I'm just saying that I really wanted him. That's all I wanted to say. It just ruined my night,
Well,
everybody.
All right. Well, we're gonna watch some Super Bowl 41 highlights to just crush your dreams a little bit
I
more,
was,
and we'll call it a
I was
night.
only 10 when that Super Bowl went down, and I was a Colts and Bears fan
I know.
going into that Super Bowl, and I picked the Bears, and I'm sticking to it because Bears are better.
Because you were 10.
I was 10. They had cooler colors, and they had Brian Urlacher.
The last time they won a Super Bowl, I was 2, and Jonathan would have been 6.
Best defense of
1985,
all
right?
time.
The shuffle, yeah. I remember
Yeah.
the shuffle.
So, all right.
All right. Well, that's it for this show. I guess we're back Thursday of next week with a couple county councilmen. Nate Lamar
That's
Oh,
correct.
good.
and Steve Duggar will be on. So
Together?
Both of them.
they'll be on together.
Oh, nice.
Getting everybody in at the same time. That's the last in our candidate series. And then following that, we're going to do an election night special on Tuesday night, the night of the election. We're going to send Chase out on a remote, and he's going to call in with.
Well, listen,
Uh-oh. Are you going to break our hearts?
I'll possibly be on my way to Florida
Oh, no.
on that night.
Oh, no.
I am not
Oh,
sure
no.
yet.
When are you voting? Are you voting before you leave?
I will vote before I leave.
Have you guys early voted yet?
I don't want to go to jail, man. I'm a libertarian. It's a criminal offense if I vote in the primary. It's closed party business.
Oh,
These
man.
laws they have.
Oh,
I'm
man.
a public figure. They could pull up my voting records, and then God only knows I'll end up overcrowding the Henry County Jail because I voted.
Oh, man.
It's oppressive.
It is.
This whole voting system that we have in this country is
It's an
ridiculous.
oppressive regime.
Let's
we
talk
should
about
move
the
to
next show.
conventions.
We'll see. We'll see
We
what
will.
happens.
Let's talk about the next show after the election special.
That's
Yeah,
right.
Coming back.
The Tuesday night we're gonna have some remote calls. So if we can hook up with you, we'll try to have you on the air and see how
For sure.
see if we're celebrating.
You got my number.
We got it.
There we go.
We'll hit
All
you
right.
up. All right, that's it. We will see you all next week.
All right. Appreciate it. Thanks for having me.